nation-building programs. And that's why I'm proud to stand on this side of the House to advocate for those plans, because I know they're going to do well by my constituents and for all Canadians.
There will be 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining for questions and comments following the speech of the Honourable Member for Cowichan Malahat Langford when the House next resumes on this topic. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député de Pierre Boucher.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes, Verchères. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to say that yesterday in this House, elected members of all parties committed to protecting supply management within the framework of the new TPP. The motion that we passed is unequivocal. This Parliament will not accept any breach in the supply management system. No breach means no part of the market will be conceded. None. I am pleased to see that the government, as we do, recognizes that Quebec's agricultural producers have done more than their share of sacrifices in the name of international trade. With this commitment comes the responsibility to act. The government must keep its word and, as of today, resume negotiations with the 10 countries that are partners of the new TPP. We have given our word and we have included it for posterity in parliamentary journals. We will not accept a single concession regarding supply management.
Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, January the 6th, I joined the parishioners at Holy Resurrection Russian Orthodox Church to celebrate Christian Orthodox Christmas Eve. It was a beautiful ceremony led by the very Reverend Michael Furek, who kindly introduced me to some of the teachings of the Russian Orthodox faith. He also generously allowed me to bring greetings to the church community. It was a great honor and humbling experience. I'd also like to thank Sergei Povaresky and his lovely family for inviting me to their Christmas Eve celebration. Mr. Speaker, the Povaresky family are proud members of the vibrant and substantial Russian-Canadian community in Steveston, East Richmond. The Russian-Canadian community continues to contribute to the vitality and strength of our great country.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Helen Evelyn Karstead, who passed away peacefully at the age of 86 last week. Helen was a nurse, small business owner, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and loving wife of 64 years to George. George would move to Winnipeg, where Helen studied nursing. He would brave frigid Winnipeg winters on bicycle every single day. Helen was worth it, he said. A devout Catholic, she raised funds to build St. Albert, the great parish. Born with a green thumb, she transformed her backyard into a garden that would make any gardening editor jealous. Politicals will tell you there was no more stylish a lawn sign installer. She was elegance personified in her immaculate white Cadillac, stuffed with Reform Party of Canada lawn signs and a sledgehammer for good measure. Helen was always the picture of elegance. She is survived by her beloved husband, 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. A wonderful life has now returned to the kingdom of God. Helen lived life doing ordinary things in extraordinary ways.
Hello. Hello. The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Wild Wind City, pitless with blizzards and black blues, never whited out but wailed. Authentic like freight trains who steal lizards that loco veer prairies where settlers trailed. Mehi Capel, backed with Fort Garry, St. Boniface, where Louis Riel was jailed, solely by his soul's work. To see, starry, all First Nations flourish, none assailed. Thus Winnipeg's revolutionary, the golden boy, capping the parliament, mirrors France's Bastille stationary. That 1919 strike had commune intent. Guess who's a citizen of Winnipeg? All fighters who'll not for civil rights beg. Wheat Board and Credit Union City, sweet horde of gold grain and gold-hearted socialites and socialists, where forking rivers meet and mosquitoes torque to deliver bites, as hurtful as long bombs a blue bomber hurls, touchdown as hard as jets alight. Slap shots around goals not a bit calmer, as ballet where gravity's pulls a fight. Royal, of course, where bisons congregate, no hunter's hatred as him in his sight, where poets and folk singers legislate, a museum consecrate human rights. Winnipeg is city, citizens, indigenous and not, but striving all to live justice. George Eliot Clark, 7th Poet Laureate, 2016 to 17.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, in less than 24 hours, Canadians will be watching closely for the start of the Pyeongchang Olympic Games. Biathlon, bobsleigh, curling, hockey, luge, figure skating, speed skating, ski jump, skeleton, freestyle skiing, snowboarding. Forget the cold with these exciting sports and these athletes that make us so proud. Dufour Lapointe sisters, Caitlin Osmond, Mark McMorris, Patrick Chan, or Marie-Philippe Poulin, there is no lack of spectacular athletes who will deserve our applause.
I cannot forget our amazing flag bearers, Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer. This is the first time Canada will have dual flag bearers, and they could not be more deserving. In 2010, here in Canada, they were the youngest skaters ever to win Olympic ice dance gold and won silver 4 years later in Sochi. We may watch the medal count very closely, but let's enjoy the moments, more importantly, and take pride in these incredible ambassadors who for a few exciting weeks will be the face of our country to the world. Go Canada, go!
The honourable member for Coquitlam Port Coquitlam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the heart of Port Coquitlam lies the second largest rail yard west of Winnipeg. Late last month, a tanker truck moving ethanol through this yard was involved in a collision with a train, resulting in an explosion and a spectacular fire, which you may have seen as it made the national news coast to coast to coast. But fortunately, there was no loss of life. While we await the outcome of investigations, I commend the joint emergency planning, training, and coordination between Canadian Pacific teams and the City of Port Coquitlam. Their emergency preparation and planning unfolded with precision to keep the situation under control, to undertake the necessary evacuation of an 800-meter radius in an orderly fashion, and to ensure no loss of life and no injuries. I thank and express my ongoing confidence in the City of Port Coquitlam and all first responders, as well as Canadian Pacific personnel, for their ongoing professionalism and skill in keeping our community safe. Thank you, Mr.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, this past December, hundreds of charitable organizations were presented with an ultimatum: abandon your beliefs and principles or be denied funding by the Liberal government. Numerous businesses, faith organizations, and groups in my riding have participated in the Summer Jobs program for years. They will not betray their principles, and the Liberals will punish them for it. Canadians must not be forced to sign a document that violates their freedom, the same freedom guaranteed in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The actions of this Liberal government are wrong, and they are simply un-Canadian. It's time for this Liberal government to stop attacking freedom and start standing up for all Canadians.
The honourable member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, the St. Thérèse Lions Club is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. This philanthropic organization, founded by Roméo Légaré in 1968, supports the well-being of the residents of Blainville as well as reaching beyond its local base. Through its dynamism and the quality of its engagement, the Lions Club plays an important role in the community. They have raised over $2.5 million for the community to support people with disabilities, the less fortunate, and youth, as well as the health and education sectors. The Lions Club is a marvelous example of solidarity, generosity, and a real source of inspiration for everyone. I would like to highlight the work of the president of the club, Ms. Lion Danielle Corbet, who has been involved for 19 years now. I would like to thank and congratulate all the St. Thérèse Lions for their community spirit and their devotion to our community. Congratulations, happy 50th.
Member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, the upcoming Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea, mark our largest ever delegation sent to the Winter Games, with 230 proud Canadian athletes ready to compete. I know that all our Canadian Olympians and Paralympians will do us proud. Olympic mascot Sue Harang and Paralympic mascot Bandabi are already delighting kids and inspiring the next generation of Canadian athletes. The Olympic Organizing Committee has chosen peace as the central theme of tomorrow's opening ceremonies. I hope the Games can serve as a turning point for conflicts around the world, and I join all Canadians, including many in my riding of Willowdale, in celebrating the Korean hosts of these games, and the Canadian athletes, coaches, trainers, and staff who will be proudly wearing the maple leaf in Pyeongchang. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the war in Yemen must not be forgotten. It is a humanitarian catastrophe, and it is also, in strategic terms, one of the stupidest wars fought. Stupid because it's bad for everyone's interests and everyone is losing. Iran's regime is provoking conflict, and this has provoked backlash at home. The people of Iran don't want this war, and the regime is losing credibility as a result. The Houthi, by aligning themselves with Iran, have made themselves a much less palatable partner for others. Their own Iranian-inspired persecution of minority communities like the Baha'i further weakens their position. Saudi Arabia is failing to make headway and is bringing themselves into further disrepute by their treatment of civilians. Saudi Arabia needs strategic cooperation with the West, and that cooperation requires human rights progress. There is a strong strategic and moral case for peace negotiations which exclude Iran and which recognize the legitimate aspirations of Shia and other minority communities in Yemen. Such a deal would probably be good for everyone and could establish a workable framework for majority-minority cooperation in the region. So let's get on with it.
Honourable member for Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, Wednesday of last week was a big night for Northwest Territories here in Ottawa. I was pleased to attend the Arctic Inspiration Prize ceremony on January 31st, where two organizations from my riding were announced as winners. Dana Heroes Publications, whose project enables Indigenous youth to contribute to books about inspiring people in their community, received $100,000. The grand prize of $1 million was awarded to Arctic Indigenous Wellness Foundation. Their team is establishing a center in Yellowknife that will provide traditional healing services to Northerners. Congratulations to both organizations, and I look forward to their continued success in many years to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Argenteuil, La Petite Nation. Mr. Speaker, the start of the Pyeongchang Olympic and Paralympic Games is just a few hours away and is a major event of this winter season. We're all eagerly awaiting the Games and getting ready to cheer on our athletes, the pride of Canada. Our Olympic and Paralympic teams are ready to meet the challenge with the support of the Canadian Olympic and Paralympic Committees. National sport organizations, as well as our partners, are supporting our athletes who are aiming for excellence in sport and the podium while competing against the best in the world at Pyeongchang. Canadian Heritage is working with the Canadian Olympic and Paralympic Committees, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the RCMP, and the missions from the Republic of Korea in order to implement appropriate plans to ensure the success of the Games. I encourage Canadian men and women, the team behind the team, to support our athletes who are a source of inspiration. Go Canada!
The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor those who have been devastated by swarms of earthquakes that have recently hit Taiwan. Sadly, 10 people have been reported killed and dozens are still missing. The magnitude 6.4 earthquake struck Taiwanese city of Hualien late Tuesday night and has since been trapped numerous people in collapsed buildings and damaged roads and bridges. There have been more than 100 aftershocks reported since the initial quake, and authorities have warned that earthquakes of magnitude 5 or higher are possible over the next 2 weeks. I understand that a great number of people are left without water and electricity in their homes. My thoughts and prayers are with Taiwanese in this difficult time of great uncertainty. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Scarborough Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, I am very proud to speak for the first time in the House as the Member of Parliament for Scarborough Agincourt. I want to thank the people of Scarborough Agincourt for their support and trust. It is an immense honor to be their representative in Ottawa. Thank you also to the many volunteers, friends, family, community leaders that were there for my campaign. In Scarborough Agincourt, diversity is our strength, and that is something we can all be proud of. I will work on the issues that got me elected: the Bridletown Community Hub, seniors, housing, mental health, youth, and transit, and will continue the work of our government in helping the middle class. I want to continue Arnold's encouragement of civility in the House, where listening and talking to each other is very important. I will be a strong voice for Scarborough Agincourt and the issues that are important to the residents of this great riding.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, access to affordable housing is vital.
Honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway to start over.
Thank you. Access to affordable housing is vital to the health and well-being of all Canadians. It is a fundamental human right. And yet too many Canadians struggle with housing insecurity, particularly in British Columbia. Vancouver is Canada's most expensive housing market, the third highest in the world. It has one of the lowest vacancy rates and the highest rents in the country. This has caused what can only be described as a crisis. Young people are being forced out of the communities they grew up in, families are living in cramped quarters, and businesses can't find the employees they need. That's why New Democrats propose a national housing strategy that commits federal investments for affordable housing of all types, especially for seniors, young families, low-income Canadians, and the special needs community. We should build thousands of new co-op units as well as provide renewed support for existing ones. Mr. Speaker, we need action now. With the 2018 budget upon us, I call on this government to recognize the serious issues facing millions of Canadians and commit to addressing the housing crisis immediately.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow, February 9th, marks the opening ceremonies of the 23rd Winter Olympic Games in Pyeongchang, South Korea. Team Canada, which includes 225 of our best high-performance athletes and 87 coaches, will march into the opening ceremonies led by our flag bearers, figure skating champions Tessa Virtue and Scott Moir. I know that all members in this House are looking forward to cheering on our athletes as they compete against the rest of the world in 102 events. I encourage all Canadians to show your support and your pride for Team Canada in whatever way possible. These outstanding athletes represent what Canadians are all about: hard work, dedication, and most of all, the ability to have fun in sub-zero temperatures. On behalf of the Conservative Party and all members of this House, I would like to wish all of Team Canada the best of luck at the Games. Go Canada, go!
The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, last week Bill Let's Talk brought mental health to the forefront of the national conversation, recognizing that only through open dialogue and understanding can we end the stigma. I've been inspired by the work done to help those in my riding suffering from mental illness. This last week, High Note Evente held a gala fundraiser for mental health at the Richmond Hill Performing Arts Centre, organized by none other than Ingrid Tahiri. It was a wild success and a clear example of my riding's dedication to the issue. Over the course of the next 5 months, as the Parliamentary Mental Health Caucus, we will do our part as well. Made up of members and senators from all parties, we have begun an investigation into youth suicide. Every young life lost is a tragedy. It is our duty as parliamentarians to work together to find compassionate, common-sense approach systems and solutions to deal with suicide. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is completely missing in action when it comes to defending the Trans Mountain project. As this trade dispute grows between Alberta and British Columbia, the Prime Minister is doing nothing. This week, he's in the United States collecting photographs of his favorite U.S. political heroes, but Canadians are paying the price here at home. We know that the Trans Mountain project is important to Canadians. It's been declared to be in the national interest, and it will create thousands of jobs across the country. What is the Prime Minister specifically doing to make sure that this project actually gets built?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me assure the member opposite that we agree that the approval of the Trans Mountain project, it was in the national interest. that it is well within our jurisdiction, and this project will go ahead. In fact, today I had discussions with both my counterparts from Alberta and British Columbia. We have officials that are in British Columbia right now having discussions. We are going to get to a resolution. I was also very proud today to announce a new environmental assessment process, rebuilding trust in a system that was so desperately lost under the previous government.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's the Liberals' process that people have lost trust in. It was this Liberal government that killed Northern Gateway, based purely on politics, not on science. They killed Energy East by loading on so many hurdles that it became economically impossible to proceed. And now with Trans Mountain, they have done nothing for months. It's always talk, no action with this government. Is it because the Prime Minister thinks that his job is just ceremonial in nature?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I am extremely proud that we delivered on a major campaign process. We are rebuilding trust in how we do environmental assessments so that we can actually get to yes on good projects. Unfortunately, under the Harper government, that trust was lost. The Harper government gutted our environmental assessment process. They removed protections for fish and for fish habitat, for navigable waters. Today, we are reestablishing that trust. We know the environment and economy go together, and we will get good projects built while protecting our environment.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There is a complete lack of confidence in this Liberal government's approach, and the proof is in the amount of investment that is leaving this country. Billions of dollars have left the energy sector thanks to this government's process. And when projects do get to a yes, this Prime Minister says no, based on politics. Now, the Minister of Natural Resources said that he wouldn't tolerate unnecessary delays. This project was supposed to start in November. Nothing has been done. Exactly what is the Liberal government's definition of an unnecessary delay?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Delays we saw under the last 10 years of the previous government. They did not understand that the environment and the economy go together. I'm extremely proud that in January 2016, we introduced interim principles to approve major projects, to make decisions based on science, on consultation, on engagement with Indigenous peoples. We also said no projects would go back to the starting line. We announced a national climate plan. We announced an oceans protection plan, and it is in that context that we approved the Trans Mountain projects, and that project will get built.
Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the Trans Mountain Pipeline is an extremely important project for Canada and for the economy. But today we've seen a sad conflict between two provinces who can't even get along for the well-being of the country. The role of the Prime Minister is to stand up and show some leadership on behalf of Canadians. But unfortunately, he's run off for a photo op in the U.S. rather than dealing with real issues here. Can someone in the government stand up and call on the government to act like a real head of state? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I am really happy to rise. I'm very proud to be part of the Prime Minister's government. We know that the environment and the economy go hand in hand. We are the ones who are restoring trust in our environmental assessment processes. We also know that we need good projects to move forward. The former government could not do both of those things. It didn't know how to do it, but we do. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. I understand that they know how to manage this. Because of the changes that they imposed, we lost Energy East. That's the type of change that we don't need. Now, there's an urgent problem here. There are two provinces who are in conflict, and all Canadians are going to pay for this. We need a real head of state and a Prime Minister who will stand up for the good of the Canadian economy. Will the Prime Minister do this for real? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government will not take any lessons from the former government. We know that the environment and the economy go hand in hand. We restored trust in our environmental assessment process. That's why there was so much polarization and projects couldn't move forward because the former government didn't understand that the environment and the economy go together. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, Turquoise Hill Resources, a Vancouver-based mining company, saves itself from paying nearly $700 million in taxes here in Canada. Not only are these shell games losing us $700 million that could be used to pay for infrastructure and public services, but the government isn't even taking this seriously. In fact, they're loaning them $1 billion for their foreign operations. Will this government invest in companies that are engaging in tax evasion? Do they think that's a good idea? The Honourable Minister of Trade. I'm proud to be part of a government that made tax fairness a pillar of its government. We invested nearly $1 billion in the Canada Revenue Agency just so that we could fight tax evasion, Mr. Speaker. And I hope that the NDP will join us to take the appropriate measures to fight tax evasion in Canada. Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-les-Basques.
Let me recap the situation for the minister here. Turquoise Hill Resources is a mining company based in Vancouver. It made $2.1 billion in profits and paid exactly zero in corporate income taxes in Canada. Zero. Instead, it declared those profits in Luxembourg, where it employs one part-time employee. As far as I know, Vancouver is not in Luxembourg. If a Canadian company doesn't feel Canadian enough to pay its taxes here, why should it be Canadian enough to get loans and grants from this government?
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, let me restate the fact for my honourable colleague on the other side. This is the government which put tax fairness at the cornerstone of our action, Mr. Speaker. We invested more than $800 million in the Canada Revenue Agency to fight tax evasion and tax avoidance, and we would hope that the member on the other side would join us in fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance in this country. That's what Canadians expect from us. That's what we're delivering.
The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Well, we're giving them a chance to join us today, Mr. Speaker. Last year, Parliament adopted an NDP motion on cracking down on the stock option tax deduction loophole. It cost Canadians $1 billion a year. 75 of Canada's wealthiest CEOs pocket $500 million alone on this giveaway. That's $6 million each. Now, meanwhile, Canadians lack affordable housing, pharmacare, childcare, and drinkable water in hundreds of communities. Will the Liberals join with us, keep their promise from 2015, and crack down in this loophole in the next budget?
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, it's not by asking the same question that they get a different response. What I said, Mr. Speaker, it's pretty clear. This is the government that had put tax fairness at the center of our action, and we have invested more than $800 million in the Canada Revenue Agency, Mr. Speaker, because we believe in tax fairness and combating tax evasion. This is what this government stands for, and I would hope that the member on the other side would recognize that, work with us to make sure that we eradicate that in Canada.
Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
So two different questions, Mr. Speaker. We have a government that really isn't listening. Now, another Liberal promise was to tackle known tax havens, but instead they've signed even more agreements with these tax havens. This government has signed agreements with the Cook Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, and Grenada. They're just copying and pasting the same agreements. It's disgusting. Why are the Liberals signing new agreements with tax havens when last year they promised that they would tackle these inequalities and this loss of money?
Minister of Revenue National.
Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. That's why we've invested nearly $1 billion in our last two budgets. The agency is now able to evaluate the risk for all big multinationals every year. Every year, we look at every transaction over $10,000 in 4 high-risk jurisdictions, including Guernsey Island and the Isle of Man. As far as foreign operations are concerned, as of 2017, the agency has been carrying out audits of many taxpayers and has also opened criminal investigations into 42 cases.
Last night, after the Prime Minister left the country yet again, his entire Liberal caucus, instead of defending ethical standards and the taxpayers' dollars, defended the Prime Minister with their shameful vote. Now Liberal MPs are not only whipped by their boss, but they are complicit and are condoning him breaking the law without any consequences. I have a simple question for the Liberals that they could answer us and maybe their constituents. Just what was it about yesterday's motion did they disagree with? What did they disagree with in that motion?
Government House Leader.
On numerous occasions, immediately after the report was released, the Prime Minister accepted responsibility and accepted the findings of the report. What's also been articulated many times, and what the ex-commissioner has recognized, is that these expenses were part of the role of the Prime Minister, and they were incurred as part of the role of the Prime Minister, as has been the case for previous Prime Ministers. When it comes to our security agencies, Mr. Speaker, they make recommendations. We take their advice, we take their expertise, and we would continue to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Full Opposition House Leader.
No other Prime Minister has broke the ethics code, and he incurred taxpayers' dollars while doing it. Now, other members of Parliament, Liberals in fact, have repaid thousands of dollars when they broke the rules. The only one who doesn't seem to have to live up to the standard of having consequences for his actions seems to be the Prime Minister. And Canadians are left wondering if this is yet another example of a very bad joke by the Prime Minister, this time played on all Canadians. Why does the Prime Minister act like he is above the law?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Once again, I have said on numerous occasions, as has been the case for previous Prime Ministers and as is the case for this Prime Minister, whenever and wherever the Prime Minister travels, there are costs related to his security. Security agencies make recommendations, we take their expert advice, and we will continue to do so. Mr. Speaker, it was the Conservatives that demanded an investigation, and now that the ex-commissioner has finished her report, she has released her report, they refuse to accept its conclusions. We on this side will accept its conclusions. The Prime Minister has accepted responsibility, and we thank the officer for doing the important work that she did. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. I think probably the honourable member for Abbotsford has heard me say on previous occasions, members will hear things they don't like sometimes, and that they really shouldn't interrupt, and that they should wait, of course, for their turn to speak. The honourable member,
Honourable member for Richmond Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, imagine, yesterday Liberal members voted against the following motion. That in the opinion of the House, when any member violates the Conflict of Interest Act, including accepting gifts or hospitality, furthering private interests, being in a conflict of interest, and accepting travel, or violates the Conflict of Interest Code for members of the House of Commons and in so doing incurs a cost upon the taxpayer, that member must repay those costs to the taxpayer. I'd like to know from the Prime Minister, what part of this motion does he not agree with? Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as I said in English, and I will say again in French, we always accept the advice of our security agencies to ensure that we can ensure the security of the Prime Minister. The former Commissioner recognized that these expenses were incurred as part of the role of the Prime Minister, and that was the case for previous Prime Ministers as well. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Well, that really wasn't the question, Mr. Speaker. She's just repeating the same talking points that she's been repeating for 2 weeks. By voting against this motion last night, all Liberal members on the other side of the House became complicit in the Prime Minister's contravention of these 4 sections of the Conflict of Interest Act when he went to a billionaire's private island with his Liberal Party friends at taxpayer expense at a cost of $200,000. So I will repeat my question again. What aspect of this motion does the Prime Minister not agree with? And why did he make his entire caucus vote against the motion? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times, it was the opposition that asked for the former Commissioner to investigate, and now that she has, and now that she's tabled the report, they're refusing to accept the recommendations. On this side of the House, we accepted the recommendations. The Prime Minister has taken responsibility for this, and as the former Commissioner recognized that these expenses were incurred as part of the role of the Prime Minister, we accept those recommendations. Thank you.
For Chilliwack Hope.
Yesterday, Liberal MPs were given the opportunity to stand up for the law and stand up for Canadian taxpayers, and they failed miserably, one by one. They stood to vote against our motion, which demanded integrity and responsibility from politicians. The motion said that when a politician breaks the law and costs taxpayers money, they have to pay taxpayers back. So which part of that did the Liberals disagree with? The part about obeying the law or the part about paying back taxpayers when they break it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, there was quite the debate that we took place in the House yesterday. The opposition, which has a limited number of opposition days to raise issues of importance to Canadians, have chosen to raise an issue that is important to Conservatives. We on this side will continue to focus on Canadians. As we know, this Prime Minister, this government will focus on making sure that there is an economy that works for Canadians. We will make sure that veterans have the resources that they need and that they deserve. We will make sure that immigration system is working to reunite families and to bring them together. As the Conservatives will continue to focus on this Prime Minister and the Conservatives will continue to focus on this government, this Prime Minister will focus on Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Order. The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in respecting the law and respecting taxpayers. The Prime Minister is guilty of breaking the law by accepting illegal gifts, guilty of accepting a ride on a private aircraft, guilty of arranging his affairs improperly, and guilty of conducting illegal discussions about government business. His illegal trip cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's refused to pay back the money. So why do these Liberals believe that it's taxpayers who should pay when they're the ones that break the law?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, that's peculiar, Mr. Speaker, because immediately after the report was released, it was this Prime Minister that accepted responsibilities, and it was this government that accepted the findings. The Conservatives were the party that chose and demanded that the ex-commissioner investigate. Now that she has finished her investigation and submitted the report, they refuse to accept its conclusions. We on this side of the House will always respect the work of our offices of Parliament. We on this side of this House will always accept the advice of our security agencies, Mr. Speaker, and that's what Canadians expect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have been waiting 2 long years for the Liberals to deliver on the promise of a strengthened environmental assessment process. 2 adjectives that we can apply to the proposed new regime: discretionary and uncertainty. Will a project require an assessment? We can't know for a myriad reasons. The list of projects is eventually developed by regulation. Will the minister call one if there's public's concerned? We don't know. Will there be a joint federal-provincial review, or will she merely bypass the whole thing to the provinces and let them deal with Indigenous concerns? What is the answer?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 words to describe what we announced today: better rules. That we understand that we need to have a process to review major projects that's based on good science, Indigenous traditional knowledge, that we need to be consulting with Canadians, that we need to be working in partnership with Indigenous peoples, and we need good projects to be able to go ahead in a timely fashion. That is exactly what we announced today. In terms of the project list, we're not just going to develop ourselves, we're actually going to listen to Canadians, because we need to make sure that the projects that are being reviewed are those that have a significant impact on the environment, and that Canadians have a clear chance to weigh in.
Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie. 28 months ago, the Liberals promised that they would strengthen and repair the environmental assessment process. For example, they said that they would end federal ministers' interference in the environmental assessment process. Today, in Section 17 of her bill, we learned that the Minister of the Environment will be able to decide unilaterally not to proceed with an assessment. The Minister said she wants to restore Canadians' trust with this new process. But if she breaks her promise, how can Canadians trust her if she's given herself the right to end an environmental assessment? Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I am so proud today that we did what we said we would do. We have a new environmental assessment process that will help us regain the trust of Canadians. Canadians want us to make decisions that are based on science and on Indigenous knowledge. They want us to listen to the concerns of Canadians, and they want us to work in partnership with Indigenous peoples. They want us to give the go-ahead to good projects, and that's what we're doing.
Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, the new Ethics Commissioner at committee today made it clear he would like to see the Conflict of Interest Act reformed
to give him powers to apply meaningful monetary penalties against those guilty of serious violations of the Act. Commissioner Dion also said he could use new powers to compel an offending member to repay the reasonable value of an illegal gift. Now, one can only guess what that would be with regard to the lavish hospitality value accepted by the Prime Minister for his illegal vacation, but in the meantime, the PM can still do the right thing and just pay it back.
Mr. Speaker, we appreciate the advice and counsel of Mr. Dion. In fact, we respect our officers of Parliament, and we always appreciate their advice. We look forward to working with the Commissioner and to working with Parliament to continue to raise the bar on transparency and accountability as a government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member. Order. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, our motion from February 2nd apparently had the same effect on the Prime Minister as the Ethics Commissioner's Trudeau report. It went in one ear and out the other. And then it was voted down. We know beyond any doubt that the Prime Minister's family trip was not due to extraordinary circumstances, nor was it in the national interest, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister tell us if he disagrees with Section 12 of the report, which says that the Prime Minister should pay back Canadian taxpayers for the trip with his own money? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times, the former Commissioner recognized that these expenses were incurred as part of the role of the Prime Minister. As in the case of former Prime Ministers and in the case of the current Prime Minister, when Prime Ministers travel, there are security costs associated with that. We are taking the advice of our security agencies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Barrie Innisfil.
Barry Dawson conducted a year-long investigation on the Prime Minister's free vacation from a registered lobbyist that cost taxpayers $200,000. Her findings in the Trudeau report are clear. The Prime Minister broke the law by violating 4 sections of the Act. Last night, every Liberal voted against the motion that requires MPs who break ethics and conflicts of interest laws to pay the money back. It means the new norm for the Liberals is that they have no problem accepting gifts or trips from lobbyists, no matter the cost to taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, have they no shame?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
This side of the House, we respect officers of Parliament and we respect the work that they do. It was the Conservatives that demanded that the Commissioner investigate. The Commissioner investigated, she released a report, and now they refuse to accept its conclusions. We on this side have accepted its findings. We on this side, the Prime Minister has accepted responsibility. We will continue to work with the Office of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to ensure that all recommendations are followed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, here's what voting against the motion means, Mr. Speaker, that the Heritage Minister can fly off on an all-expense paid vacation with Netflix. The Finance Minister can go to a private Barbados villa with Bay Street executives, and the Industry Minister can be wined and dined, showered with lavish gifts by a Chinese Communist Party company looking to buy Canadian companies. All of this can happen with no consequences now. Why can't the Liberals see how illegal, how immoral, how unethical, how corrupt this is?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, as I have said on numerous occasions, immediately after the report was released, the Prime Minister accepted responsibilities and accepted its findings. What is clear, exactly what the Conservatives did with 10 years in government, undermining offices of Parliament. Now they have been booted to the opposition and they continue to do so. We on this side respect offices of Parliament. We respect the work that they do and we accept their findings, as has been the case on numerous occasions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable
Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, the Social Security Tribunal is an utter failure. Some Canadians are waiting over 1 year before being heard. The KPMG report shows that the tribunal costs much more and takes on average 5 times longer than the former system. Groups that work with the unemployed are thus calling for a return to the system with a 3-person panel. The Liberals had promised to act, but unemployed Canadians are still waiting. When will the government keep its promise and reform the appeal process? Honourable Minister of Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for giving me the opportunity to say how important it is to have a court system that works well and that respects the principles of natural justice. We have to ensure that this system is swift and effective and that it meets the needs of the most vulnerable Canadians. We received a report that is very clear on the fact that the system does not work as it should. It was put in place. It was set up in a poor way, and we will fix that in collaboration with unions, employers, and others.
Mr. Speaker, reports aren't going to cut it. It's been 2 years since we knew that the Social Security Tribunal system was broken. The Conservatives broke the system, and the Liberals have done nothing to fix it. Yeah. Liberal, Tory, same old story. Mr. Speaker, workers are suffering, and this government is doing nothing to alleviate those concerns. So my question is, when will the Liberals fix the system, leave the reports aside, and actually act on what's in the report to finally show respect to Canadian workers and fix this broken EI system?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The EI system needs to be fair. What we have now is a tribunal that does not work. It is too slow, it is unfair, it is complex, it is a source of justice denial. We will correct that system, Mr. Speaker, as we have told employers and unions in the last months. We know we'll be able to depend and to rely and to build on their support. We look forward to the very important work that we need to do.
Roger. The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There has been recent media reports that IRCC may consider eliminating a pathway to permanent residency for caregivers. These reports are worrying those who are providing service to our seniors and children with medical needs. Can the Minister please reassure this House and caregivers of our government's position when it comes to a path to permanent residency for caregivers?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Monsieur le Président, je tiens à
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for his question.
Service for Canadian families. Let me be clear. Our government will continue to ensure a pathway for permanent residency for caregivers. In fact, we are conducting an assessment of the existing programs to improve them. Mr. Speaker, our government slashed wait times for caregivers from up to 7 years under the previous government to 12 months under our government. And there is more good news, Mr. Speaker. The existing cases under the live-in caregiver programs will be eliminated by the end of this year, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Niagara Falls. Order.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. CTV has reported that the government is trying to kill a class action lawsuit that alleges sexual misconduct and gender discrimination within the Canadian Armed Forces. Frankly, Mr. Speaker, I find this quite disturbing. Can the Prime Minister explain why his self-proclaimed feminist government is trying to silence women who are coming forward with such serious allegations?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to be clear, everybody deserves an environment that is safe, free from harassment and discrimination. I share the concerns that the Prime Minister expressed yesterday with respect to this case. I'm looking into the pleadings to ensure that they are consistent with the values of our government, and I will provide my advice as Attorney General to the Prime Minister on this. I have full confidence in the Minister of National Defence to manage his litigation files. While I will not comment on the specifics of this case, it is my goal as Attorney General to ensure that when appropriate that we can settle these cases that are in the public interest.
L'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. The Prime Minister loves to make grand statements when he knows that they will be good for him. For example, when he offered his apologies to a certain group. But when it comes time to protect Canadians against certain types of abuse and harassment, he continues to find excuses and do nothing. Will he make the right decision once and for all and apologize to our men and women in uniform for insulting them yet again by refusing to protect them from all forms of harassment in their own workplace?
Of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated yesterday, let me be very extremely clear on this matter. Inappropriate sexual behavior of any kind is completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated in the Canadian Armed Forces. Every person who willingly serves their country deserves to have a professional environment to be able to grow and to serve. We have more work to be done, and we're going to get this done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister promised veterans that they would never have to fight his government in court. We now know this is false. Standing before a veteran who gave so much for his country, this Prime Minister cold-heartedly stated that unfortunately he and his fellow veterans were asking for too much. The Prime Minister can afford to fly all over the world, meeting and greeting and dining and whining. Well, not whining, he whines at home. With the world's elite, but when it comes to our veterans, there's nothing left in the bank account. When will this Prime Minister show some real leadership and give our veterans what?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we are committed to the well-being of veterans and their families. We've delivered on our promise for a Pension for Life option, a plan designed to help veterans live a full and productive life post-service. The new Pension for Life option is monthly, it is tax-free, and is payment for life. It provides income replacement payable to 90% of a veteran's pre-release salary, indexed annually for life for those who need it. The Conservatives had 10 years to make the changes necessary to support veterans, and they did nothing.
Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised on page 55 of his election platform that he would not take our veterans to court, but that was just another broken promise. In addition, he insulted them by saying that they are asking for too much from his government. When the member for Louis-Hébert says that he doesn't like my questions on this subject, we know that the government's on the defensive. Canadians now see that the Prime Minister is not a credible or trustworthy leader. Why is the Prime Minister not keeping his promise to not take veterans to court? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our members of the Canadian Armed Forces and veterans deserve to know that they have our full support if they become ill or injured. As is said by the member for Barrie-Innisfil, the Conservative government had become disconnected from veterans and had lost their trust. The veterans were poorly served by the Conservatives' contempt, and that's why we invested so much money. Unlike the former government, we're going to deliver on our promises. The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, this morning, the International Criminal Court launched a probe to investigate crimes against humanity committed in the Philippines. So concerning the arms sales contract to the Philippines, can the minister confirm that this contract was excluded by her government from the arms trade treaty? And how many other similar contracts are being negotiated between the Canadian Commercial Corporation and other countries with terrible human rights records? Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we have received no request for a permit for exportation. The Prime Minister and I have been very clear about the Duterte regime's human rights violations and extrajudicial killings, including during our visit. I will conduct an extremely rigorous human rights analysis of any potential export permit application related to this contract. I have the power to refuse such a permit if I see that it is bad for human rights, and if that is the case, I will do so.
South.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of British Columbians put their bodies in front of Kinder Morgan's pipeline construction on Burnaby Mountain in 2014, with 125 being arrested. I stood with them as these people are my constituents. We saw how disrespectfully the Prime Minister treats pipeline opponents during his town hall in Nanaimo last week. How many more people is the Prime Minister willing to arrest to force his pipeline through our beautiful province?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The decision we took on the Trans Mountain Expansion Project was the right decision, and it's based on facts, evidence, and what is in the national interest. Last week, the Prime Minister was in both BC and Alberta and clearly stated his support for this very important project. We look forward to working with every province and territory to ensure a strong future for Canadians, but the facts and evidence do not change. This project will diversify our export markets, be built on improved environmental safety, and ensure a strong future for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Speaker, again, the Liberals are trying to pull the wool over Canadians' eyes by giving false assurances that all is well with China's takeover of construction giant Aecon. We know this Chinese-run company is rotten with corruption. We also know Aecon is involved with critical Canadian infrastructure projects in the hydro, nuclear, and military sectors. So a simple question, will the minister commit in the House today to formally direct security agencies to undertake a full Section 25 national security review and not just a perfunctory screening?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, we have been clear on this issue for many, many weeks. When it comes to national security, we never have and never will compromise on that. Every single acquisition or transaction is subject to a national security screening. This is a multi-step process, and the advice that we will receive from our national security agencies will be followed. We always have followed their advice. We have faith in the advice that they give us, and we will make sure that any decision that we make will advance the interests of all Canadians.
Member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, the Chinese company CCCI has a dire reputation. This Chinese state-run company was banned by the World Bank from bidding on construction projects in the Philippines because it engaged in bid rigging. This is a company that helps the Chinese government to violate the international law of the sea. And today, CCCI wants to purchase Aecon, a flagship of Canada's construction industry. Why doesn't this government want to take the time that it needs? Why is it in such a hurry to say yes? Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, as a minister responsible for the Investment Canada Act, we have a very thorough, robust, and rigorous process. A process that we will follow, a process that we have followed, a process that will make sure that the outcome is in the best interest of all Canadians. When it comes to national security, we will take the appropriate step in the advice from the National Security Advisors. And when it comes to Canadians, we will always make sure that any decision that we would make will be in their best interest. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, the minister keeps doing this. He keeps saying and referring to how robust and rigorous, multi-stage the process will be. Investment Canada data shows that only 5 of the more than 700 foreign takeovers in 2016-2017 underwent a full-scale national security review. The minister claims all foreign takeovers face a national security review when in fact most of them only go through that preliminary step. Now, Mr. Speaker, if the minister trusts our national security agencies, like we all do on this side of the House, will he direct them to do the full, in-depth national security review on the Aecon purchase?
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, we have been absolutely clear. We have full confidence in our national security agencies. We work with them, we take their advice, and we follow their advice. What I find appalling and concerning is the members opposite have no faith, no confidence in our national security agencies. We do. That is why we'll continue to work with them in order to make a decision that's in the best national interest of all Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
A member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Monsieur le Président, l'innovation.
Mr. Speaker, innovation changes the way we live and work. It creates new opportunities and new challenges for the people in my riding and across Canada who must support their families and hope for a prosperous future.
Adult learners in particular, like single moms, supporting a family on their own, or newcomers who are starting over, going back to school can be very daunting. Can the minister tell this House what our government is doing to support adults who want to upgrade their skills?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, for his question and his tireless advocacy for accessible education. You know, as someone who went back to school as a single mom with 2 kids, I know that adult learners face many barriers to accessing further education, and that's why our government's launched Skills Boost, which is a new plan to give learners the support that they need to succeed in the workforce through a new $1,600 per year Canada Student Grant and new flexibilities for EI. Going back to school will be within reach for 43,000 more Canadians. You know, our government has Canadians covered no matter their circumstances. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, when the Canada Revenue Agency changed its policy on the taxation of employee discounts, the minister denied responsibility. When they went after disabled Canadians and single parents, she also denied responsibility. When the Auditor General reported that the agency's call centre is an unmitigated disaster, she denied responsibility. Now that we know her executives receive the highest average pay performance in the entire public sector, will this minister, for once, accept responsibility for rewarding her executives for the failures of her agency and explain why?
Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government has delivered concrete results for Canadians by counting on the essential support of a world-class public service. The former Conservative government chose to undermine the quality of services to Canadians by offering bonuses that had to do with cutting positions. We believe that performance measures for executives must reflect our priorities to serve Canadians and to ensure safer and more diversified workplaces. Senior officials do not receive performance pay if they do not achieve.
West.
A company owned by the Chinese government wants to take over HoC, one of Canada's largest construction companies. This company's international record has been generously described as problematic. The Liberals and the Conservatives have threatened time and again Canada's sovereignty by allowing the sale of local assets to foreign investors with links to foreign governments. In my riding, HoC is shortlisted to build Canada's top infrastructure project, the Gordie Howe International Bridge to the United States. What effects will this takeover have on the project? What does the United States think about Beijing controlling a company that runs the show on their soil?
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite and the member from Windsor for asking this very thoughtful question. He knows full well that I understand the concerns that he's raised. I've answered this question in the House several times. We've been very clear that under the Investment Canada Act process, it's very thorough. It'll examine both the economic benefits and national security elements of any acquisition that takes place. We will make sure that we do our due diligence, that we're thoughtful about this, do our homework, and any decision outcome will be in the best interest of all Canadians.
Thank you. The member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, Kildonan St. Paul is home to one of Canada's largest senior populations. While seniors benefit our communities in so many ways, they also rely on benefits like CPP, old age, GIS, to ensure that they have the security that they've worked a lifetime to earn. Could the minister responsible for seniors advise the House on what this government is doing to ensure that our seniors are receiving all the benefits to which they are entitled?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all members in this House, I would like to congratulate the member from Kildonan St. Paul for her strong advocacy on behalf of her constituents. Our government is committed to helping more seniors get the benefits that they deserve and that they expect. That is why I'm so pleased to announce that automatic enrollment for the Guaranteed Income Supplement is now in place since January and is helping 17,000 vulnerable seniors access the GIS without having to apply. Not only is that making sure that more seniors get the benefits to which they are entitled, but it's also helping to reduce poverty in that very vulnerable part of our population, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, in November, I wrote to the Minister of Infrastructure to find out why he was imposing restrictions on the Drinking Water Fund. Because this means that cities have to hurry through their projects, which means more costs for taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, it's February and I haven't received either a response or even an acknowledgement of receipt. What do the Liberals have against municipalities? Instead of rushing them, will this minister work with the municipalities and give them a way to maximize Canadians' tax dollars? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that effective and efficient infrastructure
is the foundation of building a strong economy, creating jobs for the middle class, also building inclusive and welcoming places for all of us to live in. We work very closely with the municipalities. I take pride in listening to them. And now after listening to them, we have made changes to extend the deadline for vast water project and for transit funding as well. This allows them to build projects in a way that meets their schedule, and we're very happy to work with them to extend this timeline, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Repentigny. By creating the Canadian Energy Regulator, the government has put Hydro-Quebec in trusteeship. The government has banned Quebec from building or operating any part of an interprovincial or international electricity line without its permission. For example, if Hydro-Quebec wanted to go forward with its Northern Pass project with New England, it will have to beg for permission from the federal government and obey its conditions. Why does the government think that it has this right?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tighter timelines, better rules, more certainty for investors, and stronger protections. Our new approach to reviewing projects reflects our belief that we must work together to protect our environment and grow our economy to ensure a sustainable future for our children. We are building a better regulatory process that Canadians can have confidence in. Our new system will ensure good projects move forward to create good jobs and grow the economy. We will create a modern, predictable, and timely process that gets good projects built in a responsible, timely, transparent way. Our legislation is for the candidate.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, this is something serious because we're not talking about the environment. We're talking about predatory federalism. The government said this bill will regulate the market for energy products. The government is taking over Hydro-Quebec. The federal government is the one who will decide who can sell electricity to whom and under what conditions. Do the Quebec Liberals realize that they are stripping Quebec of its control over its own energy future? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. We recognize that there is a provincial jurisdiction and a federal jurisdiction. So when we make decisions or when we examine projects that are in the federal context, obviously we're going to put in place our own process. So we respect Quebec, we respect Hydro-Quebec, but there are environmental impacts that will stem from certain projects, and we want to make sure that we put in place a robust environmental process.
I believe the Honourable Opposition House Leader has the usual Thursday question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the Government House Leader if she could please tell this House what the remainder of the business of the House will be for the remainder of this week and for the rest of next week.
Order. The Honourable Government House Leader. Order.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon we'll be continuing debate on the NDP opposition motion. Tomorrow we will continue consideration of Bill C-50 on political financing at third reading.
Monday and Thursdays of next week shall be allotted days. On Tuesday, we will start second reading debate of Bill C-68, the fisheries legislation. On Wednesday, we will call the Environmental Assessment Bill, which was introduced this morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Government orders, business of supply, resuming debate on the opposition motion in the name of Mr. Julian on tax fairness in Budget 2018.